Hey everybody, Merry Solstice, Happy Festivus. It's actually the night of solstice when I'm making this video, and I just completed a really beautiful ritual with Caitlin, and we did the 2020 forecast, which you will be able to now download if you missed it, where I go through kind of all the highlights for the astrology for 2020. And then I'm also going to be making some videos by sign for you, by request, because people want to know, of course, the forecast for their own individual sign. So that will be coming up next. But I also want to talk about the upcoming new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn on Christmas night. Depending on where you live, it could be going into the day after Christmas, but for all intents and purposes, we're going to be feeling the eclipse on Christmas. Let's just put it that way. And this is a powerful new moon solar eclipse because it's joining Jupiter and it's having a trine to Uranus in Taurus. So it's got an interesting electric quality to it, and it also has the support of Jupiter. So even though eclipses tend to be a little bit darker times, a little more ominous, there is something hopeful about this eclipse in terms of at least bringing wisdom. I mean, it is also amplifying the Capricorn area of your horoscope right now, where, by the way, there's a huge confluence of planets lining up in that sector of your horoscope. So already we've got the sun, of course, that just went in today on the solstice. We've got, on Christmas, we'll have the moon, the new moon solar eclipse that I'm talking about. But right now there's, of course, Jupiter, Saturn, Ceres, Pluto, the South Node, and right after Christmas, we're going to have Mercury moving into Capricorn. So we're basically talking 7 personal planets before we hit 2020, all lining up in Capricorn. So that's a very intense Capricorn infusion for you. So the focus right now, and especially, at that seed level during the new moon solar eclipse, is really about doing your Saturn work. Saturn is still in Capricorn until March. It'll take a little breather and go into Aquarius for a few months, March 2020. But we're still in Capricorn territory, heavy Capricorn lessons. And of course, we're also really getting close to that Capricorn-Pluto merger on the 12th. We're already feeling that alchemy of those 2 planets. And I've been calling it the end of the world as we know it energy, because it is a huge paradigm shifter. And as I've been saying, it's dismantling the old structures little by little. It's Saturn is not that dramatic. It's slow. It's eroding. It's like it's working at such a root level right now. In Vedic astrology, this new moon solar eclipse is in the nakshatra of Mula. So you can think about what's happening at that root level. That's what's being unearthed, and even the South Node is getting close to that point. So there's just a lot of intensity around something that has been very deeply rooted that is now being unearthed, because it's no longer a structure or support that it's like the infrastructure is falling. So it no longer is sustainable, you could say. And we could look at that as a metaphor in our own lives. Like, what are those deep embedded structures that we may have been clinging on to that are no longer truly fortifying us, really supporting us? And there's a sense of them eroding or crumbling. Or there's just a feeling that we need to dismantle them. And so this is a really powerful time at this eclipse, because we're kind of coming into the 6-month finale of the Cancer Capricorn themes. They're going to really wrap up in July 2020, when we have, actually on the 4th of July. It's always on these holidays. It's weird. We have the new moon solar eclipse on Christmas, and then in Capricorn, and then we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn on the 4th of July. So those are interesting bookends to think about. America's certainly going through it. It's our holidays. We are a Cancer country. So, look to this new moon solar eclipse and the early degrees of Capricorn in your horoscope to see where there is a sense of, there's a deep shift taking place, and you are in the process of clearing out a lot of karma, and you're getting a lot of wisdom, hopefully, about it. And again, just in general, wherever you have Capricorn in your chart, this is a good time to look at where you want to really tighten up your structures, to get more discipline, to commit on a deeper level to the structures in your life, or the ones that actually support you, you know, meaning like your disciplines, your practices, especially your spiritual practices, and how comfortable are you in the Saturn realm, because we are in full Saturn for the first few months of the year anyway. I mean, really, even when Saturn goes into Aquarius in March, it's still Capricorn territory. We shift from the devil archetype to the star archetype, so it will, I think, feel a little bit brighter. But we're still in Saturn realm. We're still in the Saturn realm. Not as intense as we are at the beginning of 2020, but nonetheless, we're still definitely going to be feeling Saturn. So we have to do our Saturn work, which is time management, integrity, looking at where we need to put more boundaries or barriers, or sometimes even walls to protect ourselves, meaning like, I mean, that's such a controversial term. I don't even like to say the word walls, but meaning like sometimes you have to delineate is maybe a better way to say it. Like there has to be delineation of where you say no, and you have to just have a firm no, and just know that somebody can't cross that line is maybe a better way to say it. And boundaries meaning saying no to things or people or situations that are eating up your time or stealing your time in a way that it's not in alignment with where you want to be investing your energy. Are you saying yes when you mean no? Saturn really helps us to own our no. And there's going to be a lot of testing in the beginning of the year. And of course, with that, that conjunction or that merger with Pluto on the 12th, we're in the process of learning how to awaken to our inner Saturn, which might mean facing the fact that we come in this world alone and we leave alone. Saturn makes us face how alone we are in this world and how everything's temporal. Saturn is the god of time, and he reminds us like this could all erode. I mean, this is all eroding. We're getting older every day. We're getting closer to death every moment. You know, things are dying. And we've been saying like a lot of people feel like they've aged like 20 years in the last 2 years since Saturn went into Capricorn, because Capricorn's about aging and Saturn's about aging. I mean, Saturn more than Capricorn. Capricorn is a wise old energy. But Saturn has that quality of, it rules elderly people. So you might have just felt like everything feels a little more ancient and a little more like, you know, there's a heaviness, there's a somber energy. And as I'm making this video, it's Saturn's day. The solstice is on Saturn's day. And the sun just went into Capricorn in the tropical zodiac. So we're at that really powerful point. We're at that 0 Capricorn sun degree, which, by the way, we will have another eclipse next year, 2020, in June at the 0 degree Cancer. It's going to be a new moon solar eclipse in Cancer at the 0. So there's those cardinal points are really powerful in 2020. Cardinal energies in general are powerful because all of the second half of 2020, we're going to be in Mars and Aries territory, which is another thing I talk about a lot in my 2020 forecast video if you want to know what that's about. But think of this new moon solar eclipse on Christmas as the initiation point of what you're going to be really working on and working with as we move into 2020. So, especially in the Capricorn realm of your chart, because that's going to be an ongoing theme, because Saturn will go back into Capricorn in July and will stay there till the end of the year, until he really officially moves into Aquarius toward the end of 2020. But we are really still working on the finale of the lessons of Saturn and Capricorn. And so getting back to those themes, which I did start talking about, again, we've got our relationship with time, our relationship to structure, our relationship to authority, living in integrity. And the only way we can really live in integrity is to know our limitations. If we're not clear about our limitations, we overpromise, we underdeliver, we say we're going to do something that we can't do. We push ourselves too hard and get sick. There's many repercussions that happen if we're not clear about our limits. So there's a real power of knowing your limits, and that means knowing when to say no and knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at, and not trying to do things you're not. I mean, of course, we want to improve ourselves, but not pretending we have certain abilities we don't have until we get them, you know? And so like working within our limitations helps us to master that realm. and to honor Saturn. Saturn is all about limitations and finding the power and the grace and the strength in our limitations. So this is all going to be the work for this new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn, and also moving into 2020. So I recommend getting back into those structures and rituals and disciplines that really support you on a deep level. And Saturn, since we're dealing with like bone issues, like skin, hair, teeth, nails, these are all Saturn themes, like taking care of like getting enough nutrients in our body. Like, are we deficient in certain minerals? Like, Saturn's all about really nourishing at the root and making sure, you know, we can tell the condition of the body based on the skin, hair, teeth, and nails, right? This is Saturn domain. And making sure that our life is devoted to some kind of service or a greater purpose. This is also a way to really honor Saturn. So how do we really offer up our skills and our talents in a way that we're serving others in a humble way, and that we're offering this as a way to support and help. And often there's a very humble, selfless quality to Saturn. You know, it's not about glorification or trying to become, again, it's about limitations, not trying to become bigger than we are or get more than we give or any of that. Saturn is very much about the real, and very much about the humility and the, you know, really taking care of what's essential, not being wasteful, not being grandiose. Saturn's got a very grounded, heavy, let's get real quality. So if you're feeling all of that, it doesn't have to be depressing and somber. You know, there's been a lot of talk of that. And of course, winter can have that quality in the solstice. The dark days in the northern hemisphere can certainly feel like they have a somber quality to them. But it's just to draw us inward. It's beautiful. Like, that's the beauty of winter, just to kind of pull us into ourselves and to be a little less extroverted, so we can focus on the inner world and the soul and slow down and rest the way nature is resting. Like, why wouldn't we want to give our own bodies a chance to go into that deep hibernating rest state, hibernate like bears, you know? On Friday, I stayed in bed until noon watching TCM, and that was like the best thing I could have ever done. You know, I haven't done that in a while, like just stayed in bed for most of the day. And yeah, so give yourself that if you can do it, you know, if you have a window where you can just really go into deep rest. It's such a beautiful thing to do at this time of year, because we do have less energy. So, and at the eclipse, the new moon is, you know, the dark moon, and eclipses tend to zap our energy, and they can be a little bit hard on the immune system too. So a lot of people getting sick right now. Also, when the seasons change and we start to get into the super cold, damp, wet season, we have to really up all the heat in the body. And it's good to do sun salutations, or work with the solar plexus, or calling in the energy of fire, like candles, which I've been doing all night. They've kind of burned out now, but because I did the ritual. But you know, fireplaces and heat and warm ginger and warming spices right now, all of those things are really supportive to counteract the cold, damp, dry energies. Wait, I just contradicted myself. Some places it's dry, I'm thinking of the dry heat, but then it's damp and cold outside. So we're trying to keep the heat in the body. And working with the solar plexus and the energy of the sun really helps us to not lose touch with the life force, because when we're in that cold, dark, damp energy, sometimes we feel depleted. So Caitlin and I were talking earlier about drinking lots of hot water with lemon and honey, or citrusy kinds of fruits, or, you know, even yellow candles, or just things that remind you of the sun. If you're feeling like that sun deprivation right now, this is a good time to take on rituals that are more life-giving. And you know, unless you're feeling really drawn to kind of go into the dark and you just want everything to be kind of melancholy and, you know, internal, that's fine too. But if you want to bring in a little sun, these are some rituals you can do. And also during this new moon solar eclipse, you know, if you have planets in those early degrees of cardinal signs, there's some opportunity probably for you with the Jupiter support. There's an opportunity for expansion or for something. It might be like a long-term venture of some kind, because Capricorn's usually more about long-term gains and, you know, not always something so obvious. Oh my gosh, I just had thought I saw the moon outside my window, but it was a reflection of the tree. I'm like, wait, the moon is not full, but I had that kind of moon glow. I think I'm craving that. But anyway, so, you know, look for certain opportunities that might show up. Even if it seems like it's something you have to work toward in the future, it can still be an amazing opportunity. Like, we're really thinking long-term right now with Jupiter and Capricorn and all these planets in Capricorn. It's not about instant gratification right now. It's all about like what's going to sustain you in the long run, and what are you willing to like that mountain you're really willing to do the difficult climb, you know, step by step. The one that's not easy, the one that, you know, is going to have a lot of obstacles, but whatever's up at the top is so worth it. So you have to figure out what is it that you're really striving or climbing toward, you know, like what is it that's really calling you on that higher plane that you're willing to take the, you know, the journey. So these are some questions to ask for this new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn. And it's a great time for deep inner work, meditation, reflection, and and just preparing for 2020, which is going to be an epic year. Double priestess, double twos, emperor, 4, double fool, 2 zeros, and double judgment, 2020. So these are all the tarot archetypes based on the numerology. So it's definitely going to be a monumental year of the divine feminine, the goddess, the priestess energy, fool taking chances. That's very Uranian. We've got Uranus and Taurus. And judgment, huge soul awakening, Saturn and Pluto coming together. It's a huge soul, like we're all waking up from a deep sleep. And it's been a long process coming, but it's exciting. It's exciting to see people waking up. My guru says, you know, a lot of us are sleepwalking. It's harder to wake somebody who's pretending to be asleep than somebody who knows they're asleep. So at least we're all realizing I think we know we're asleep. So it's time to wake up. Anyway, I wish you a beautiful solstice and Christmas, holidays, new moon, solar eclipse, if I don't see you before Christmas with another video. Last thing I'll say is Mars is wrapping up in Scorpio at the end of the year. So we're in that finale. And I hope you'll get a chance to check out my more in-depth 2020 forecast, and stay tuned for the forecast for each sign. Thank you so much for watching.